KPFT, Houston.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving the 100,000 watt signal from our transmitters into those magical boxes known as radio, aka the Howard Reynolds machines. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great program. Welcome to the rest of the world listening to us via the magic of the internet, also known as the ARPANET, created by we the people, your tax dollars and your intellect, but now because of an economic system that is rigged, controlled by a few, that's charging you the many to use and abuse. Anyway, folks, before we get started, let's go to the studio, LS Studio. Good morning, my brothers, Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
Well, it is Wednesday morning at the radio. We are midweek, and we're still in pledge drive. So we're raising funds here to support KPFT, and we have online our interim general manager, Sandy Weinman. Good morning, Sandy. I say good morning, Sandy.
Well, we think he's there.
Good morning, Howard.
Oh, he's here, yeah. He's on his iPad this morning. He's got a cranky computer.
I've got a PC that decides every morning whether it wants to start up. Then it's a lottery as to how long it's going to take. But that's the way it goes on a Wednesday morning. And yes, we're still in fund drive, but folks, we're over the $86,000 mark, trying to raise $150,000 by next Tuesday evening. We're on a good path to get there. And your participation, well, it would be very welcome. Welcome to Politics Done Right. We'll be asking you to call 713-526-5738, hit option 1, or go to kpft.org and make a donation to this Need to Feast fund drive. And new, starting this morning, we've been talking about a brunch in January at Under the Volcano and a fajita dinner coming up next a week from Wednesday, November 13th, with Rick Izquierdo hosting and hopefully some musical guests as well. And those two meals, the brunch and the fajita dinner, can be picked up for a $200 premium, $200 thank you, as you supply the funds to KPFT to keep us going through the winter months. Get fed in November, get fed in January. Back to you, Edberto.
Great. Thank you very much, Sandy. Folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Title of the show today is, well, wait a minute. I am kind of losing it. Since we're in fund drive, things kind of go haywire. Before we get started, I know it's crazy. Before we get started, though, we have to go to the one and only word of the day from Jacques Van Beba.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, Jack. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. All right. Too much money at the top is the reason why the wealthy spend billions on elections to rig the economic system to their liking. Citizens United, a misnomer. It should be called Against the Citizens, the Rich Unite. Why do they give bad policy and decision good names? It's all part of the deception perpetrated against the citizens that the legislators use to enact policy that is beneficial to the rich and enslaves the working class. Wake up and resist the tyranny waged on the citizens by a corrupt corporate Supreme Court. Period. Period. Double period.
Triple period. And then there is that.
Yes, then there is that. You know what? It's so funny. Jack always have a little nugget that kind of wakes up a little fiber in my brain that reminds me of something, right? You notice he just talked about giving things some nice sounding names. And by giving them this nice sounding names, they can really screw you still, right? I mean, he talks about giving policies interest in them. I remember in the Bush years, right? There was the Clear Skies Act. I think it was the Clear Skies Act of 2003. And you hear a name like Clear Skies Act and you think, wow, things
They're
are
going to
so
pollute.
great.
Hmm.
All it did was increase pollution. But it was.
Well, they didn't say whose clear skies.
Yeah.
And you sit
Yeah.
down and wonder, and that goes on all sides, right? Because inflation went up, right? And Biden called his program the Inflation Reduction Act. And yeah, we're all talking about the inflation reduction. Look, it's an important piece of legislation. It's a good piece of legislation. But dang, it had nothing to do with really reduce the inflation now. But inflation was going rampant. I mean, we knew what caused inflation all along, and we brought it down with the policies that needed to bring it down. But that act called Inflation Reduction Act, wasn't it? I mean, these guys, it's amazing. But you know what? Before I get started with the program, the phone is on with David, so I'll just bring David in, and then I'll go to the actual program because you guys come first, the people first. David, buenos días, mi hermano.
Buenos dias to you, guy. What's the Spanish word for morning? I don't know. Hey,
Yeah,
I,
I
I
just
talk,
said it. You just said it. Buenos días. That's good morning.
hey, dias? Okay, well, that's good. Cool. Okay, I try not to call too much during the pledge drive because I don't want to hog time so you guys can do a lot of pitching. And I haven't contributed this time around because I'm on Social Security, and it's really difficult. By the time I finish spending for necessity, I got nothing left.
I got you,
It was
brother.
important. I felt it was important enough for me to call this morning because I was looking through some of my phone blogs. This site called Common Dreams. Now, what Jack Van Dever was talking about just a few minutes ago, the Citizens United or Thugs United, which they should call it. This organization called Americans for Tax Fairness. They did research on this year's election. Now, here's the deal. Here's what the skinny on the research comes down to. In 2020, they spent $1.2 billion to finance or bankroll candidates. This year, they spent $700 million more, or $2 billion, to bankroll candidates. Here's how these things divide out. 72% of the money that was spent by these billionaires went to Republicans and 22% to Democrats. Out of that money, $450 million went to Donald Trump, $143 million went to Harris. And I did some math and research on my own, a few calculations. Now, I figured if there's 75% of the wealth went to Trump and the Republicans, that probably translates out to approximately 75%. 150 billionaire families donated for this billionaire feeding frenzy, I call it. And out of the 150, if 75% of the money, or in this case 75% of the contributions went to Republicans, that means that out of 150 families, 113 families donated to Republicans, and only 37 families donated to Democrats. That's 75% versus 25%. So there you go. This is the what's that? Just economic disparity writ large. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much, David. I mean, I always talk about having the greatest listeners. That is actually the article that I am going to base some of when I start talking about the billionaires about today. That is the article. It's in the Common Dreams, and it is referencing, in fact, the Tax Fairness, Americans for Tax Fairness 501c3. You're absolutely right, David.
Uh,
Thank you for calling that out. And I think that is what Brother Van Bever was referencing as well. So thank you, brother.
I didn't mean to steal your. I didn't mean to steal your
Oh,
thunder.
no, no. There's so much to talk about that no one of us can steal each other's thunder, man. Fine. It's great. Thank you, brother.
Thank you
Peace.
for letting me have my say. Thank you.
And
Bye.
by the way, that was the lead of my newsletter today. So that's great. Let's go to Harry. Come on in, Harry.
Good morning, Alberto. Good morning, Sandy. Good morning, Magic Jack. And good morning, Captain Reynolds, Rap Howard. Anyway, I wanted to finish off the other point of what Johnny was saying yesterday when he was talking to you about, um, let's see, Joe Biden, when he went to Arizona a few days ago to apologize to the native people of this country on what Europeans had done to them since 1819. I listened to Democracy Now! That day after the show. Amy had interviewed some indigenous people, and they said that they were happy that President Biden did that, but there was a woman that they played a piece on the Democracy Now! There was a woman that came out in the crowd and said, "You talk about um, the forgiveness of what and apologize of what your ancestors and people that look like you did to the native people. But yet we got a genocide going over there in the Gaza, and you won't apologize for that." And this woman was very angry. I don't know if she was a Palestinian or she was a Jew woman or what, but she was very angry. And I think either they escorted her out of there or she walked out of there. And what President Biden said that really bugged me is he said, "Well, first he said, let her talk, and then he said, well, innocent people get killed." And that really made me mad because what it made me think of is 4 years ago, and I had an argument with some black man who said, "You're wasting your vote, Harry, if you don't vote for Joe Biden." And I said, "I can't vote," and I mentioned this to you before, Roberto, why I didn't vote for Joe Biden 4 years ago. Because he voted for Iraq, he voted for the war when he was a senator, and he voted for Iran. And then something you mentioned earlier this year, Roberto, when you had played that piece years ago that Joe Biden said, if Israel didn't exist, we would have had to create it. And so you have all those things going on in your head. And so that's why I didn't vote for him 4 years ago. And now I'm reminded with and Amy, the interview she did with the indigenous people, the indigenous people were saying that they stand by their Palestinian or Judean brothers and sisters, and they don't like them being in this situation, and they know that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden could do something about it, but they also know that AIPAC would undermine it if they called for an arms embargo and a ceasefire in the northern Gaza. So that's why I'm reminded why I'm still going to vote my conscience, as I said to you last week, and vote third party. And I've told you that, yes, it is risky because I don't want Donald Trump either. But like I told you, because I have a bed to sleep in, and there are little girls and boys over there in the northern Gaza who don't have a school to go to. They don't have.
Okay, Harry, I got you. I got you. I honestly got you. Let me just give you the Eddie Glaude, Professor Dr. Eddie Glaude's answer to that. And I'm not going to tell anybody how to vote. I'm just going to lay out the facts, and people are going to vote how they want to vote. The truth of the matter is, there are a lot of you would not be the only person voting against your own interests. There are a lot of people on the right voting against their own interests. It is a standard pathology within our society that of voting, right? And we just pay the price for the vote that we give. So that's on you. But here's this, my brother. Dr. Eddie Glaude says sometimes we just have to buy time. And sometimes if you don't choose right, you don't get the opportunity to buy time. It is that simple. And in your case, because you're in Texas, maybe it won't matter, maybe it will. But there are a lot of people, let's say, whether it's in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and specifically in Michigan, where there are in fact many of our Muslim brothers and sisters who may want to sit it out or vote third party. Sometimes
Yep.
when you do that, in effect, you pay the price. We had a wonderful young lady that called in here, and she took exception to some of what we said, what I said here, with regards to sometimes you have to just bite the bullet and vote for the best of two evils. And she said she was willing, understanding that that could mean a Trump win. She was willing to be
You're talking
kicked.
about Cuba.
Let me
Cuba.
hold on. Let me finish, Harry. She was willing to sacrifice her American citizenship, meaning if Trump decided to change some of the Constitution with his
Yep.
Supreme Court justices willing to leave the country, and that's fine. The thing about it is that decision doesn't only affect you; it affects others. When I make my vote isn't just for Egberto Willis. The truth of the matter is there were times when I've made votes against my own interests for the better good of society in the aggregate, and I would always do that. Some people believe in in voting just their conscience, and sometimes their conscience hurt others. But thank you, Harry. I understand what you're saying. You have a
Right.
wonderful rest of your day, my
Right.
brother.
Oh, right.
Let's
One
go
more thing.
ahead. Let's see. Anyway, folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Extension number 2 to speak, but extension number 1 to donate. I want to thank Derek, who is a new donor. He said, everybody get on board and keep KPFT relevant for the times. Thank you so kindly, Derek. That came in, I think, about at 5:15 this morning. But I think that's the same Derek that calls us all of the times. Now, look, folks, I am at for this hour. I am currently at zero, meaning nada, niet, nothing. We need to keep, as Sandy was saying when he spoke earlier. My show is responsible for bringing in $300 for the hour, but my commitment really is to bring in $500 for the hour, not only to recover from what we didn't do a couple of days ago or so. I think if I recall, actually I don't know. I gotta check, but um, I I just think that we need to bring to get where we need to get as a radio station. I think we lowball a lot of our support. That is just my solid opinion. I think, like other stations on the Pacifica network, we are the most meager station. We are the station that work its volunteers the hardest, and we are the ones that provide uh, support for our volunteers the least because we love this station and we love what we do. I don't think there is another public station, another community radio station that works at as tight a budget as we work. But there's a lot more to do because radio is not all. Getting that 100,000 watt signal is not the only thing we should be talking about. We should be talking about a lot more community engagement. We should be talking about a lot of other platforms that we can participate on, that we can bring this in, because it's not about radio only anymore. It is about multimedia to reach folks to make a difference in community. It's community media. And the only way we can get there, get to the new dimensions, is to have the people who consume us in the many different forms in which we're consumed to invest in us. So I'm asking you kindly again to please give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension number 1, and provide whatever support you can. Sandy has been talking about getting us to that sustainable level of, where you can actually get a better feeling of your cash flow and that is with sustaining memberships. $5 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month, whatever you can. Of course, if you just want to get a Politics Done Right T-shirt for $100, that's a gift, or coffee with Egberto for $250. We do appreciate that like no other. So if you're somebody that has never given to K50, but you enjoy what we do, and you can see where we want to go in the future, I want to ask you kindly to please support the program. Uh, like I said, none of this money is going into my pocket. This is a volunteer thing for me because it forms a part of what I call my personal, not my personal, but my cohort's activism, if you will. We know that information is not done the best way here in this country, in through the corporate broadcast. So please, you know this is your station, and you know we give you a voice. Please support us by giving us a call now at 713-526-5738, extension number 1. I would love to thank you on air, like I've just thanked Derek for giving in the past hour, but this hour is still at 0. Please give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or go to kpft.org, kpft.org. Hit that donate button. As soon as you hit that donate button, select Politics Done Right as the program you're supporting, and give whatever you can, including a sustainer membership if you can. Before I go to Sandy, let me just take Patty here and then we'll move on. Patty, good morning. How are you doing, my sister?
Good morning. I just wanted to remind everyone that we do have a responsibility as citizens to be informed when we vote, and suggest that everyone listen to the closing arguments. One that was an homage to the 1939 Nazi gathering at Madison Square Garden. And remember that when the former president lost, he wanted to suspend or terminate the Constitution. Of course, the oath of office is to defend it. And the other candidate whose closing argument on the ellipse was a reminder of the aspirations of our Constitution, and someone who every day is working toward that oath, honoring that oath.
Look, Patty, that is a very timely statement, because I think, I think people need to really make smart choices, and not only smart choices, but choices that matter. There's a piece that I want to do from last night, uh, that I'm going to probably play tomorrow. Why people vote the way they vote, and what we have to do as a country to educate all of our people. But the statement that you've made in contrast is very important. Take a look at what Kamala said at the ellipse, and listen to what Donald Trump. You don't even have to go into the controversies of Puerto Ricans and calling women out, all of that. It was a nasty, I watched it. It was a nasty convention in New York. And every woman that watched that, Patty, and you're a woman, so please tell me, but every woman that watched that, to me, would have had to be insulted. This bro, macho, alpha crap. I, I used to be, Patty, back in the very yay days, before a woman taught me better here in the States how not to be. I was a sexist. And now it is so foreign to me, listening to what I heard at Madison Square Garden. I was offended as a man. I can't imagine how you felt. Your statement.
We've been watching and listening to this ever since 2015, 2016, where every woman reporter was stupid or ugly. So women are well aware, and I believe that Republican men who think their wives are voting with them may end up being surprised without knowing it's their wife who was helping.
Wow, I'm glad that you said that, Patty, because I wrote a blog about the landslide, and that was my theory. My theory is that women married to these troglodytes weren't going to tell their troglodytes or the pollsters, I am not supporting Donald Trump. But given that, and you know, Liz Cheney said it, and I'm no Liz Cheney fan, but Liz Cheney said it. She said, "Remember when you go into that vote booth, it's going to be a private thing between you, your God, and your vote." And what's interesting, Patty, is that right after Liz Cheney said that, the Trump administration came out with an ad saying, "Hey, remember your vote is not secret," which is a lie, of course,
Oh,
but your vote
I
is
know
secret.
from here
Go
when
ahead.
we had petitions to protect women's rights to health. It's so much more than abortion. Miscarriage is just abortion is how it gets coded, but Republican women were coming in to sign without the knowledge of their husbands and
Hmm.
bringing their 18-year-old sons, and they signed as well. So we have hope and optimism that the evenly divided is not quite as even as the pollsters think.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you so kindly for your call, Patty. I think your statement as well give a lot of women that tacit permission to do what they know they need to do. I can't say what that is, but you know what they need to do. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful day. All right, let's go to brother Sandy. Sandy, are you there?
I am, Egberto. Good morning again. Well, we're waiting on that first contribution for Politics Done Right. Egberto says 500. I say 300. We could average it out and say our goal is 400, but truly, folks, our goal is $150,000 by the evening of Election Day, the 5th, next Tuesday. We stand at $86,613 from 516 distinct donations. Don't forget, if you are one to go out and enjoy the company of others, maybe like-minded individuals, we have 3 events that are going to bring possibly such a group together. The first is a fajita dinner at the Cadillac Bar November 13th with Ricky Scardo hosting, and we're hoping to have Ari Fresca playing. They played on Deadbeat a few weeks back, a couple months back. Very enjoyable Latin jazz band with dancers. It was quite the thing to see in the radio studio. I told them that they didn't have to be in costume, but they did it anyway. It was visual, it was audible, and couple that with a good hearty fajita dinner and Rick Izquierdo emceeing, look out. That should be a blast. In December, on the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, what could go wrong? A 3-hour tour, that's right, a 3-hour tour of Clear Lake with Ronnie Renfro and Tom Richards hosting, food, drink, and again, lots of your fellow KPFT listeners enjoying a ride on that party boat on Clear Lake, 3 hours, December 7th from 1 to 4 p.m. And finally, the third event is a brunch under the volcano in January. I'm told complete with mimosas, and that's going to be from 10 to 1 p.m. on Sunday, I want to say the 13th of January. And you can get all 3 events for a $365 pledge that will power your social calendar for November, December, and January. And if 2 of you want to go, we're asking for a $50 a month pledge, $600. If you just want the meals, the brunch and the fajita dinner, you can pick that up for $200 for yourself. Consider it. Come around and meet your fellow KPFT listeners, meet some of the people that are on the air. I hope to be at all 3 events along with Robin and other KPFT staffers so that we can all get together and talk about what we're doing and get your feedback in person as well. Good time and a way to support KPFT all in one. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. Not interested in any of that? Maybe a Politics Done Right t-shirt for $100. It's something that you could proudly wear when you go out and shop around Houston, or just around the house, or maybe to your next job interview. Egberto, I think if they're wearing that, they will certainly be considered differently. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. Please do be the first this morning to support this program. Egberto, back to you.
Thank you very much, Sandy. And talking about those T-shirts, the biggest shocker I had was I was in Philadelphia at the Netroots convention, and walking on the street. But of course it's a progressive place. So, but convention where a bunch of progressives meet. Walking in the street was a Politics Done Right T-shirt. I ran up to the guy who like, wow, where'd you get that? He's a donor to the station. Anyway, folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Please support the program, and please do so now if you can, because I so want to say thank you on air to you. 713-526-5738, extension number 1. I've got an 8-minute piece on the economy to play, but I see that a call is in. So what I'm going to do is wait for that call and tell it. But while I'm waiting for that call, since we brought up the billionaire issue, I just want to say, add to what David had. Oh, well, the call is gone. Let me play the video, and then we'll continue to talk thereafter. So let's go ahead and do that right this minute. Aquí está. You know, this election should not even be close, right? Because we have incompetence running against competence. We have a person that has plans that make no fiscal sense, don't make mathematical sense. He just talks out of the top of his head, and we have something that is well planned out. And in the case of the economic plans, Trump versus Harris, you know, the people in the know have already spoken. And it is time, I think, for more of the news media, like been done on MSNBC several times, to actually just lay out the numbers. Let Americans see exactly what Trump has intent on doing to the economy. It's not a difficult thing to do. Let's take a look at it, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Nobel Prize-winning economists are backing Vice President Kamala Harris's vision for the economy, calling it vastly superior to the plans laid out by former President Donald Trump. 23 U.S. recipients of the prestigious award have signed a letter serving as a stamp of approval for Harris's economic agenda. According to the group, the vice president's agenda will improve the overall health of the economy, while Trump's policies will greatly increase tariffs.
So let me show you one other survey of economists, and then we'll get into the details of why economists feel as strongly as they do. So the Wall Street Journal surveyed 39 economists, and what they found was this: a lot of support for many of Harris's key plans, 74 support for her tax credit of $6,000 for new babies, 59 support for raising the corporate tax cut, 64% for capping insulin prices at $35 for everyone, and 46%, roughly 50-50, for capping out-of-pocket spending on prescription drugs. Less support for a couple of other things, but basically very strong support. Contrast that over here with Donald Trump, who got 8% support from economists for making his tax cuts permanent, exactly 0 support for his tariffs of 20%, and 5% support for eliminating taxes on Social Security benefits, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. So the dramatic contrast between support for Harris on the one side, no support basically for Trump on the other side, from 39 economists from across the board.
So, Steve, you can already hear Trump's campaign, Trump's supporters saying, oh, these are pointy-headed economists, these are academics, who cares? We can point them, though, to the economists from the Wall Street Journal or Goldman Sachs, who says that Kamala Harris's economy would be better than Donald Trump. So let's move to your second chart about what a Trump plan would actually do to the economy if implemented the way he's pitching it?
Yeah, so why are these economists so opposed to Trump's plan? Because the economic effects would be pretty terrible. This is a study done by Bloomberg Economics, and they found that Harris's plan did not have much change in either the GDP or inflation, which in a sense is a good thing at this point. But look at what Trump's plan would do. Trump's plan would cut the GDP by 8.9%. Let me put that in perspective for you. This is roughly twice the amount that the GDP went down during the financial crisis.
Wow.
So we would be looking at something between a recession and a depression. And interestingly, I'm sure people know because we've talked about this many times, the tariffs would cause certainly a part of this. But the biggest cause, actually, of this drop are the mass deportations that Trump is talking about, because he would take huge pieces of our labor force out of the country, send them back to or send them somewhere else. And the result would be a business wouldn't have labor. They wouldn't be able to produce things, and you'd have this enormous economic contraction. So this is something we've never seen before in terms of scoring a set of policy proposals from a presidential candidate. The other reason why Harris seems to be doing better or maybe doing better for her economic thoughts relative to Trump is maybe people are figuring out what's actually in these two plans. And one of the most important things in these two plans are the differences in their tax proposals. Harris's tax proposal would raise incomes for people at the bottom 20%, for people in the 20 to 40% percentile by fairly significant amounts. She would raise taxes for people at the higher incomes down here in the 99 to 100 and the 95 to 99. Trump does the opposite. He raises after-tax incomes for people at the highest incomes up here. And believe it or not, if you're at the bottom, Trump's tax plan would actually increase your taxes slightly. So maybe people are figuring out these kinds of differences and changing their view of her economic plan versus Trump's economic plan. We have, as you have pointed out, and actually the cover of The Economist this week calls our economy the envy of the world. We have the most amazing economy, and our economic projections and our economic results continue to get better. Growth is faster than people thought, and as you said, inflation has come down almost to the Fed's 2% target, which is really quite extraordinary. Yeah, some things absolutely still cost too much, but it is all moving in the right direction.
All right, Steve, let's move to your third chart about the national debt. Obviously, Donald Trump, as president, racked up massive historic debt for the country. What would it do this time around?
So maybe voters are starting to process this as well. And one of the things that Donald Trump has done, among his more cynical things that he's done, where he's throwing out tax cuts for everybody over time and this and that, is cutting taxes on Social Security benefits. And that may sound like something you want to do, but the consequences of it would be pretty terrible, because the Social Security Trust Fund, which is already going to run out of money out in 2034, would be decimated by eliminating Social Security taxes from their source of income, and insolvency would come 3 years earlier, and there would be a huge cost to other taxpayers, presumably, to make up for this gap. So maybe voters are starting to figure that out. And then also is the budget deficit and the debt. And this, again, may be something people are beginning to get aware of. So if you combine Harris's tax proposals together, she would have actually a fairly minimal impact on the debt, $500 billion over 10 years. So that's relatively small in the context of what we got. Trump's tax cuts, even with these are his tariffs, by the way, so we know what those would have done. But Trump's tax cuts, this rather cynical giveaway to everybody and anybody, would add $3 trillion to the national debt over the next 10 years. So the party that's supposed to be the party of fiscal responsibility turns out to be the party of fiscal irresponsibility. And again, perhaps voters are starting to figure that out.
This stuff is not hard to understand, right? Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to our economy. He's a clear and present danger to our well-being. He's a clear and present danger to our security. This should not be that hard. I understand that we have a select group of the country, probably 33%, that is a cult. And that's fine. You know, you could have that on any side. You could easily get a cult. I mean, I question it. But there are some people that are not a part of the cult, but are just voting because it's their ideological domain. Folks, at some point, Just like racism is corrosive and will cause you to do things that is completely at your risk, just like sexism, misogyny, and all these other isms, because they are not based on anything logical, because they're not based on anything that really matters. Once you base your being on those particular isms, you hurt yourself, and in this case, you could hurt your country. But luckily, it seems to me like people have woken up. And I think the polls are something that folks are not interpreting as they should. But we'll see. We'll see. If you want a good economic system, you cannot. Specifically, you cannot think that Donald Trump's system will do well by you. You may want to listen again to those in the know as we presented here today. Absolutely. So you may want to listen to those in the know. Okay, before we go to Tom, folks, I want to say we are still at 0. Could we get a few calls, my dear brothers and sisters? Support what we're doing here. Support the helping your fellow person get informed by supporting your community radio station, KPFT 90.1 FM. Give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute. I'm going to go to Tom, and then, and hopefully by the time we're done with Tom, I would have had someone who's never given before call in and say, let me go ahead and support this station that I love, that I've been listening to for some time, or somebody that hasn't given in a while and says it's time for me to do it again. I ask you so kindly, call 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute, or go to kpft.org, kpft.org, hit the donate button, select Politics Done Right as a program you want to support, and give whatever you can. Consider becoming a sustainer, $5 a month. That's like, hey, I can throw away $5 a month and give KPFT a cup of coffee a month, or I can give KPFT a couple of coffees a month, $10 a month. Let me tell you, I volunteer here, right? But I love this station. I've been with this station for a very, very long time. And, and it's not just a labor of love, it's a labor of activism, it's a labor of wanting to inform, it's a labor of all those things. But I'm also a financial supporter. I can't give a lot, Hey, activism is not a very profitable business. But I am at the $10 a month level, and that has been going on. It's like I do it and forget it. It is one of my 501c3s that I support. I know I do my job, and I know that my little tiny bit is there. Can you do your little tiny bit as well? We're not asking you to come into the studio and do all the things that Jack Van Beber does, or Reynolds does, or Sandy does, or anything like that. But we're asking you, give us a few pennies to help all of us do what we need to do to keep this station alive. 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, or go to kpft.org. Let's go to Tom. Come on in, Tom.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Hey, Egberto, you're not at 0 anymore. I just gave a donation of $5 a month. So.
Oh, thank you so kindly. It hasn't showed up yet, but I'm pretty sure it'll show up in a few minutes on my screen. Thank you kindly, Tom.
Okay, and I don't have a limerick for you today, but gave you one yesterday.
Oh, this is my brother Tom from from Michigan. How you doing, man? Where is my limerick?
Yeah, I gave you one yesterday, so I don't have a new one today. But I wanted to tell you, and this might be some incentive for people to give, I canceled my Washington Post subscription yesterday.
Yay!
So I'm going to switch it over to you guys, And so maybe there are a lot of other people out there that canceled their Washington Post subscription because of Jeff Bezos being a coward and not endorsing Kamala. And they can say, okay, now I'm going to give it to somebody that does think progressively and support the progressive cause. So that's what I'm doing.
Man, Tom. Hey, let me guys tell you about a little bit about Tom. Tom is on with us every day at 3 o'clock, and Tom writes limerick. We call him the PDR Posse's poet laureate. He writes some of the best limericks, and yesterday he had one. I didn't read it here, Tom, but you know what? I told you I was going to turn that one into a meme. That was a great one. That was a great.
That was funny too, because normally it takes me a while to figure one out, but you inspired me yesterday. And after you talked about Medicare Advantage, I started thinking, and like within 5 minutes, I had a new limerick, and it's like, I'll just throw this out there. So that worked out pretty well.
But you didn't answer me. You know, I asked you in the chat. I said, "Hey, did you just write this?" I don't think you answered me, so I didn't know that it just popped into your head.
Yeah, I said just compose. So you inspired me to get one down. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you do a great job. And I thought, well, I support you on the afternoon show, so I said I'll support you on the morning one. I don't always listen, but what I do every morning, I get up early and I'm exercising while I'm listening to you. So there's probably other people doing that too, but. It's been good to hear the other calls coming in and your comments, both in the morning show and in the afternoon. So,
well,
but I don't
thank you, my brother.
No, you're there. So I want to support you.
I appreciate you so kindly, my brother. We'll talk to you this afternoon. All right.
Okay. All right.
Take care, buddy. Thank you. Have a great day. All right, let's go to Brother Peter. Come on in, Peter.
Good morning, Egberto. Thank you very much for allowing me to be a voice of reason on your program. And so, we have this potential Harris administration and the economics of adding, let's just say, about $500 billion over 10 years to our national GM, our debt, and then compare that to Trump's $3 trillion, which you just played. So if we do some math here, it's 0.5 goes into 3 6 times. 0.5 times 6 is 3. So basically, it's if anyone who's good at just looking at the numbers and crunching the data, that's Trump administration would be adding 6 times the debt to our national debt over 6 years. So I know math it's a tough subject, and it all goes back to school and even civics. So I'm going to pivot from there, like why maybe the Trump folks don't understand, like that's 6 times the national debt, adding 6 times the debt. So that's just Harris has them on that beat. And then in my opinion, what I would work toward to be civic. So we need to educate our future leaders, our futures, people who are going to go out and vote to take, get part of the process. We have very low turnout. Maybe half of the country actually votes. So in my opinion, we need more emphasis on civics, like government, teaching that in grade school and high school. And thank you again for allowing me to just give you my opinion on my, just my point of view as I listen to your
let me just say something, Peter. First of all, folks, Peter is running for Congressional District 2 against, actually it's against my congressman. What is my one? It's a shame that my congressman is so inconsequential. I always forget his name when I'm under pressure. What's your opponent's name? Crenshaw. Crenshaw.
I'm Peter
Crenshaw.
Yeah, I'm Peter Feller. I'm Dan. I'm the man with the plan that's going to unseat Dan. So you got to keep it simple.
Right.
Hashtag Dan Crenshaw.
Anyway, it is interesting that Donald Trump goes up there and talk about fiscal responsibility, and in fact, he really blew up the budget. I mean, blew up the debt by a whole bunch continuously. But anyway, that's for another subject. I have more calls that I need to go to. So thank you, Peter. You have a great rest of your day.
Question for you, if I could. One quick question for you, if I could. You mentioned the polls and interpreting the polls. However, we're in Texas, so we're an open primary state. So in other words, we register to vote. We're just registered to vote. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm a registered Republican," or "I'm a registered Democrat." However, my understanding of the process is just we're just registered to vote. So when I see this NBC News and they give these numbers, 57, 40, 43. Ours favored right now because of the early voting. My question is, Do you know where that data actually comes from, since we're not actually registered by?
No, actually, they do have a way of doing it in Texas, because what happens is, even though we are not registered Republican or registered Democrat, let's say you vote if you vote in the primary, you vote for a particular party, and because for runoffs you can't vote for the other side, you can make an inference as to whether it's Republican or Democrat. So that is how the machine actually works in Texas.
Yeah,
But
so
then again,
it doesn't.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go ahead. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
was gonna say that either that data doesn't pan out, because I have a lot of friends. I'm out at the polls and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Democrat. I'm 100% voting for you, Peter, because I believe in you." But they'll say, "Actually, I voted in the Republican primary because I was trying to get Crenshaw out early."
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't know. People, even though they want a Democrat to win, they'll vote in the Republican primary to try to knock out some of these
No, you're right.
incumbents.
No, you're right about that, Peter. You're right about that. The thing about it is that I don't know if the number of people that do that kind of stuff, how that plays in the aggregate numbers. I don't know that. So that I simply don't know. But yeah, there are some people who did that. They did
Thank you
that big
again.
time in the Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama primary. That was a big thing that was done there as well. Thank you, Peter. Let me get to Derek. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Hey.
All right, come on in, Derek. All right, Derek, you're on.
Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Hey, I hope everybody go ahead and follow through on their word. I kept my word I gave to the station. So, brother, we are in the dark days of deception. And I don't know for the life of me why they still keep reporting that black men are not voting for Kamala Harris, which is a bold-faced lie. 72 or 73% is voting for Kamala Harris. A little over 50% is voting for that is Latino is voting for Kamala Harris. Now, isn't it interesting that 32% of white male is voting for Kamala Harris? Now, as Roberto say our white brothers and our Jewish brothers. I just want to say to the white men, for such of a low number like that, you all still suffer from a lot of sexism. You really actually do. And because for a long time, Alberto, they even with their women, they did not want them to vote. They just really got the right to vote. We got to start looking at things, see it as it is. Kamala Harris is the best choice overall, and unfortunately, we're gonna have some Caucasian women that as they did with Senator Clinton at the time. Oh yeah, Hillary, we're gonna break the glass ceiling. And what did they do to her when they went in to vote? So I just want to put that on everybody's mind. But that's all.
I'm glad you brought that. Let me talk a little bit about some. Yesterday, I really wanted to do it for today, but I'll be frank. I'm so damn tired. I went to bed early for a change yesterday, but I really wanted to do. Lawrence O'Donnell did a great piece on what is happening with our entire voter base right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to talk about it right now, Derek, but stick with me till I'm going to try to prepare it today and have it for tomorrow, because I don't want to talk about it because I want to say it with the appropriate sensitivity. Okay. But I want to prepare it correctly. But there is a special thing that's really occurring in the country, why many will vote against their own interests. But I'll just give a little snippet. A lot of people believe they are losing something they've never had.
Yes.
And
yes.
that I'll just put it that way for now. But it is important, and one of the reasons I preach that we all need to get together as one people, this racial separation things and all that kind of stuff. was created not to just screw black folk or screw the
Mm-hmm.
native, it screws everybody. And what we have to do is find a way to tell that story. And I'm glad you brought that up because it put some
I
fire under
don't mind
my
voting for
butt to
females.
go
I
ahead
really don't.
and do the story. So thank you, brother. Anything else, Derek, before I jump on?
No, that's all I want to say because I don't mind voting for females. I don't care what color you are. If you can do the job, do the job.
Oh, look, like I said, look, I am not a Hillary Clinton fan, right? But after she became the nominee, I was 100% behind her, not because she was a Democrat, but
Right.
because she was the best qualified running.
Qualified.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that no if buts in it. But look, I need to thank a few people, and then I need to get to Brian and Johnny. Okay, thank you very much, Derek.
All right, great.
Um, Look, folks, thank you so kindly, Tom. Your thing just came through, Tom. I appreciate you so kindly from Brington, Michigan. Also, I want to give a big thank you to Ray. Ray again. Thank you so kindly, Ray. Ray is a multi donor as well. And by the way, Tom is new, and Derek, you're a first timer again. Thank you very much for that. For that you brought in. So, folks, we're still way behind on our donors today. So I want to ask you again, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate. Go to kpft.org and click that donate button. And please, please support the program. You see, we do important knowledge base or fact based info here. Before I go to Brian, I need to go to Sandy. Come on in, Sandy.
Thank you, Egberto. Yes, thanks to those stepping up. We've broken the ice here this morning. Thank you for doing that. We have a $300 goal for the program. Some might argue 500, but Egberto sets his own goal. I'll take the 500 in place of the 300, Egberto. Good job. But for those of you listening, we talk about raising money for KPFT. We need to do this way. We don't have much in the way of underwriting. We have a little bit coming in, but it's still less than 2% of our total budgetary needs each and every year. We don't receive much in the way of grant money. Every once in a while, a charitable foundation will grant us, a nice sum of $5,000 or thereabouts. But if we weigh in total what those grants are bringing in as opposed to our total needs, again, we're talking about a very small percentage. The majority of the money that we get to run the station comes from Pledge Drive. And while we do go on for a few days here, especially on our major drives in October and May and in February, it's necessary to pay the bills. Now, as interim general manager, I insist that we be good citizens, good stewards of listener money, and make sure that each and every vendor that's supplying a good or a service that allows our broadcast, allows our station to continue, that they get paid. That's only fair. We agreed to the price up front. We do take competitive bids on items when need be, but all in all, our vendor base, those supplying those goods and services, need to be paid. So it's a complete circle with our listeners. Listeners own this station. You vote with your pocketbook in essence, but for 54 and a half years, the vote has been to keep community radio in Houston. And we should all be very proud of the fact that we have this commercial-free entity in the midst of, well, some people would call the oil and gas capital of the United States. Corporate America resides in Houston, and it does so in a very resounding way, providing lots of employment for lots of people. We have a very fortunate situation here in Houston in so many ways that we can't count them all. But one of the things that we have in Houston is KPFT. When you come to town and you turn on 90.1 or you're streaming it, no matter where you are, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get independent media, independent voices, independent views, independent of commercial dollars that would otherwise power media. We don't rely on that. We rely on these fund drives, and we rely on you. Please do join in with all the other folks making pledges this time around. And so far, there have been 517 people that have made that move to supply some money to KPFT. And I want to thank Thomas from Brighton, Michigan, who made a sustaining pledge, not even anywhere close to Houston, but still recognizes the value of this station, as you might be listening no matter where you are. By the way, that $5 a month sustaining pledge is greeted with a $50 match. So the $60 annual pledge just became $110. So Thomas, thank you for that. Please do join in. Call 713-526-5738, hit option 1, or go to kpft.org and click donate. $15 a month will get a KPFT new logo hoodie, perfect for the cooler weather that will arrive sometime. We're not going to say when, but sometime in Houston. But that's a good piece of apparel to have for the colder weather mornings. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. Thank you for supplying the money that takes to power this station. And thank you, Egberto, for doing what you do. Back to you.
Thank you so kindly.
It's 7 a.m. and this is KPFT Houston.
Thank you so kindly, Sandy. I was just about to do the station ID. You beat me to it. Anyway, thank you so kindly.
Yes,
James is James is a new contributor as well. Thank you so kindly, James. Folks, we're still about let's see. We're still three $10 a month donors away from our goal. So think about that. If we could get three $10 a month donor, or six $5 a month donors, or two of one and two of the other. Hey, look, there are a lot of ways to make it up. Or if somebody want to say breakfast with, well, I'm gonna say coffee. I'm not rich like Sandy. I'll say coffee with Egberto. $250 contribution, and that'll finish us up, man. I know there are some of our listeners that have deep pockets out there, and you love the show, and you believe in what we're talking about. Can one of you or two of you call and fix us up? Anyway, Brian, I'm gonna put one person ahead of you because it's a lady. Joni, come on in.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing, Joni? Sister Joni, talk to me.
Doing well. So I want to address the voting habits of women, and I am a Caucasian woman. So first, the Hillary Clinton issue. I've never voted for Clinton, never could. To me, both of them were a stepping stone to Trump in the way they do business and the way they manipulate and take advantage of the system. They don't mind lying. It depends on what is, if you'll remember that quote from Bill. So, and Hillary, if it weren't for her, we might be talking about, this would not be an issue with Trump. We would be talking about President Sanders. So the first Jewish man for president. So because she manipulated the system, she stole it from him, kind of Trump style. She's just not as good at Trump as being like Trump. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I couldn't vote for her as the first woman president, but we have a competent, smart, woman of principle that is running now. And so I encourage everybody to get out there. Now, as far as the polls are concerned, I don't think they are reporting the truth. I don't think they're getting, I think one of the things they're not considering is all the new voters that were registered even after the midterms. So we've got a lot of new people. I was out during early voting, and I saw, a lot more people than usual. And I'll have to say a little story. A lady came up to me, put her arm around, saw I had an I voted sticker at the post office, and said, "So tell me, who did you vote for?" I said, "Ma'am, I can't tell you that." So I think, and we kind of both in that exchange told each other who we voted for. I can't imagine ever asking anybody who they voted for. And I said, no, I'm not going to tell you. So she kind of probably knows who I voted for. But anyway, so there's a lot. I think they're kind of worried that there are so many people coming out, because high voter turnout never really works out for the right. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you for what
let me
you're
just
doing.
say, yeah, let me just say one thing, Joni. And I look, there's nothing that you said that I can argue with, but I'm gonna tell you sort of the same thing that I told to Brother Harry, right? I'm an activist, and I'm also, by the way, I was a Bernie Sanders official delegate in Philadelphia.
Thank
So I
you.
was yeah, I was actually a Bernie delegate in Philadelphia. But what I did in Philadelphia is I spoke to all of my cohorts, like you. Being a part of the Bernie delegation, we had to decide how we were going to deal with the Hillary Clinton issue at the convention. And I was one of those out there looking for, how should I say, peace. In other words, I mean, I really understand where your heart is. I know where your heart is, and I know where Harris' heart is. But I had to make that decision where I said, you know what, the alternative, and I know where both of you stand, but the alternative, when I did all my calculations, I did the Dr. Eddie Glaude's project, which says hold time, wait time, pace time, because we're going to fight the other day. And you and I, and all of those of us who are progressive and understand the Bernie Sanders modal, it's like we got to work harder to get Americans into the know of what really makes a truly egalitarian society. That's my thought process. But Joni, I know exactly where you are, sister.
Thank you for that, Egberto. I'll let you go on.
All right, have a great day. All right, let's go to Brother Brian. Hey, folks, I need more calls. Where are my calls? I mean my calls for money. That's what I mean. 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Can we get those donations, those contributions in to keep this station on air? Or go to kpft.org and hit donate. Thank you so kindly, brothers and sisters. Brian, come on in.
Yeah. Thomas, thanks for your donation. I wish other people would also stand up and give some money to keep the station running for the time needed.
Hey, Brian, Brian, I want you to say one other thing, Brian. Brian, I need you to say, I want you to show Politics Done Right some love. Are you going to say donate to the station in the name of Politics Done Right?
Please donate in the station under the name of Politics Done Right.
I love Brian. You see why I love Brian? You see why I love Brian? Anyway, Brian, hit me up now. I know you're going to hit me up for something. Talk to me.
Okay, it's either today or tomorrow. Harris is going to have a fundraiser and convention-like type thing in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And either by choice or by demand, Biden is not there. And that strikes me as kind of strange, very odd, that he's either not going to endorse her, or he was not invited, or he turned down the invitation.
Hey, Brian, that was last night. That was last night, Brian. That happened last night.
Last night?
60,000 people were out there.
He wasn't there, bottom line.
He wasn't there, no.
Bottom line, he wasn't there.
No.
He wasn't there. I find it very strange that Democrats continually pounce on Trump about being a threat to democracy.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Biden was thrown out of office one way or another.
Okay.
Harris was chosen without being an elected official. She was chosen.
Did they follow the rules? Did they follow the rules? Did we follow the rules, or were the rules followed to get Harris where she was today, or where she is today?
No, they weren't originally.
No. What I'm saying, how is it not?
She was endorsed. She was endorsed by the current president for the office of president.
Okay, and then
no one had a primary until everyone said yes. She's going to be our next president.
Okay,
for the Democratic.
All right. Let me just say this: were the primaries over? Yes or no? The primaries, were they over? Were the Democratic primaries over? Yes or no?
No, they weren't.
Actually, they were. The last primaries, the last state had already had its primary. So therefore, all the primary
No,
process was over.
no, incorrect. Incorrect.
No?
The primaries were not over.
Really?
He was not chosen. No, he was not. Biden was not chosen yet. He said he was going to run, but
No,
they
no,
didn't
no,
have
no.
the
Okay.
primary.
Brian, let's get it straight, okay? The voting in every state had occurred, if I recall correctly. It wasn't until August that Biden dropped out. And given that the primaries are over, but the delegates are chosen, the delegates have the choice if Biden doesn't run to select who they want to run. Isn't that right?
No, I don't think that your timing is correct. I don't
wasn't.
think your timing is correct.
Okay, I tell you what. Since you think my timing isn't correct, go ahead and look it up and call me back tomorrow. I got Johnny on, and we're coming close to the end of the show, and I need to pitch a little bit more. So go look it up. But I'm pretty sure the primary was over, and then we'll talk tomorrow. All right?
All right, I do hope people donate to the station.
Thank you,
Have a good
brother.
day.
Appreciate you. All right, let's go to brother Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
Okay, here's one piece of good news. Brian endorsed your show. And
I
while
love
Brother
Brian.
you remind him, in case he's forgotten, that back in the day, believe it or not, Brian, and you can look this up since you like to fact check, Rush Limbaugh, of all people, guess who he endorsed? He endorsed Bill Clinton. Now, we can say all kinds of things about the Clintons. You know, I am no friend of the Clintons. I don't believe in dynasties. Dynasties and democracy don't mix. But if you can endorse, basically by asking people to donate to KPFT in Egberto's name, then you can go that little bit extra few inches to endorse Kamala Harris.
You know, by the end of, I think, between now and Friday, let's see, our brother Brian is going to endorse Kamala Harris. I can't do that. I am the host, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I understand where he was trying to go with you a moment ago about the primary thing. He's right and he's wrong at the same time. Yes, both things are possible in this universe. But I want to just dovetail real quickly with something you said maybe 10, 15 minutes ago that hit me when I was getting ready to go out the door. You were making a comment about how this election is ridiculous, that we have an election right now where you have someone who's competent versus someone who's incompetent, that this race should be so close. And that made me think, well, what's underlying that? And that's the power of persuasion. And what underlies the power of persuasion? The knowledge and understanding by the corporate industrial oligarchy in this country that they think they have to rule that. So how they do that is by owning and controlling media. And that makes it even more imperative for people to support independent media, like Pacifica Radio in Houston and other places around the country, other Pacifica Radio stations, and TYT, and what else? Jim Hightower's newsletter, stuff like that. These are the media that.
Let me tell you, I am so thankful for you saying that. I am so thankful for you saying that, and let me tell you why. Because, here at KPFT, that's what we do, and we have several independent programs here that come out there and tell things as they are, that isn't backed by anyone but you guys, right? And I've been preaching this stuff long time. I've been promoting people's Substacks. You notice the other day, a Hightower. I love Hightower, Substack, etc. Because that's the only way we're going to make the change we need to make, Johnny. Hey, but Johnny, I got to go raise some cash before we close the program out. So, anything else you want to say real quick?
Well, in order to fight their power of persuasion, we have to support our powers of persuasion, our KPFTs, our TYTs, Free Speech TVs, Jim Hightower and the like, and Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader has a great monthly newspaper I have yet to get a copy of. So if you can afford to do it, please.
Yeah, I do a lot of the Substacks. I support a lot of other people's Substacks just to make sure that we can keep this independent information going out there. And, instead of look at, I want to say this real quick. Look at what happened with the Washington Post and the LA Times. It is sick That is that's what fascism looks like. That the owner of the paper says, no, you can't print. The editorial board can't print that the person that they support. They can't print their endorsement, right? But of course, you have a lot of Substacks from very reputable folks all over the place that people can go and read, and they can create their own newspaper of journalists. I mean, my Substack I see is in a group of stacks with other journalists, and likewise, that is what you got to get done. We can create our own newspapers now by choosing the columnists we want. And in my case, I choose conservative and a progressive columnist Substacks as the ones I support because I want to hear all sides of the story. So, that's the name of the game. Thank you, Johnny, for giving me a chance to say that. I got to go raise some money, brother.
Thank you. God bless you, and God help this country.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks, we are done with any more videos, any more talks, or anything else. We want to ask you to please contribute now. I'm waiting to say thank you to you guys. So give us a call now. I'm not giving any more program. We gave a whole hour worth of programming and answering calls and videos. You can get the rest at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. But please, por favor, llámanos ahora al 713-526-5738. Contribute whatever you can. Consider becoming a sustainer. $5 a month. That's a coffee a month. You won't miss it. $10 a month. 2 coffees a month. You won't miss it. Here we have a brother from Michigan. He's a supporter both of our show here and our 3 o'clock show. He's triple dipping, to put it bluntly, because he also does a whole lot of other stuff for the program. So let me tell you, if we have people that can support like that, can you not say, hey, I love KPFT? Same about Ray. Ray's a supporter of 2 shows, as well as he just throws stuff in it when he gets a chance. There are some of us that are working overtime. I'm asking some of you to do it the first time. 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, or go to kpft.org. Let me throw it to Brother Sandy.
Thank you, Egberto. We are about $200 shy of our goal this morning. Maybe a couple of you at the $10 a month level would help us satisfy that gap that we have. It's really important that we stay on pace. Today, this morning, marks the 1-week countdown to the end of this fund drive. And although we've made good progress, we are nowhere near the goal yet. We're still about, $63,000 and change short of where we would like to be at the end of this whole thing. Your help is needed to get us up the hill and over the top and through these winter months, just paying the bills and keeping these broadcasts, these independent broadcasts, coming to you. We have 3 HD channels. For those of you with HD radios, HD1, which is the same as terrestrial FM, and HD2, which is a completely different alternative slate of programming, a second grid, if you will, that our program coordinator, Marlo Blue, takes really good care of and makes sure is flowing smoothly, making sure that programming is coming in on a daily or weekly basis to power that content. And we have HD3, which is a creation of Howard Reynolds, which is a classic country station for those of you into country music. 713-526-5738, option 1 is how we keep this thing moving. There's no owner here that's going to take the editorial board over their knee and say, bad, don't print that, don't say that. We don't have playlists. We don't have a lot of governance of the airtime apart from abiding by the FCC rules. And of course, in my book, hate speech has no place on the airwaves. Dialogue does. We hope to have these conversations that lead to understanding, that allow us to bridge the gap between people, person to person, create the understanding it takes to becoming friends and moving forward, even if we agree to disagree. Our phone number is 713-526-5738, option 1 to donate, or kpft.org and click the donate button to supply those funds badly needed. We trust that you will take that step as we wrap up this program and head toward Democracy Now! But James, Ray, Thomas, and earlier Derek, thank you for your contributions. Egberto, back to you. We'll wrap it up and head over to Amy.
Absolutely, folks. Look, folks, thank you so kindly for all the callers, all the listeners. Thank you for the donors, James, Ray, Thomas, and Derek. Thank you so kindly. Hey, guys, look, all the rest of the show is at politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter, 713-526-5738, extension 1 to donate, or kpft.org. You can still do it in the name of Politics and Right. I'll fix you up tomorrow. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what?